What's going on? It is your boy Mike D, host of Wrestling from the 313. And if you are watching right now, we are on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, and on the WSN app. So if you're on any of those platforms, check this episode out. We got a cool episode. We got representing the independent scene. She's a referee from Frontline Pro Wrestling. And she's making her first appearance on Wrestling from the 313. Ronnie Schumer, how you doing today? Cool. So let's get things started. First off, what first got you interested in being a referee, and how did your journey into pro wrestling begin?
Brandon Edwards, aka Draven Striker. When we first got together, I almost left him because he was in pro wrestling.
Okay.
I absolutely hated wrestling when I was younger. It was kind of banned from the house. My mom was like, "No, we don't." That and Power Rangers. Those were the two that I absolutely was not allowed to watch when I was growing up. Um, so when I got into high school, I had a friend who was on the independent scene, and he would invite me to shows, and I would get recruited to clean up, take set the ring, take down the ring, run the door and stuff. And I was like 16 at the time. And I was asking why I, was being asked to help when I came to see my friend. And he was like, "Well, you're getting a free ticket out of the show." So that put a really sour taste in my mouth for a long time. And then Brandon was like, "No, not every independent company's like that. Come with me to another show, give it a chance." And I did, and I spent a good first half of our relationship. We've been together 8 years already, and
Okay.
um I spent the first half as the wrestling wife, so I would still help and do things, everything from costume repair to set up, takedown, run the door, that sort of thing, all because it was helping my friends. It was a little bit different than when I was younger, because I was representing him, and I was like, well, if I'm, able to help, I should. And I spent the first half of our relationship just being the wrestling wife. We went to a show. I want to say it was one of his friends' memorial shows, and he wanted me to be a valet for him once, and I absolutely could not stand the idea. Um, but when we went to that one show, I leaned over and I said, "Hey, I could do refing because the ref is a good ref is invisible until it comes time to add framework to the story. What are the rules of the match? What's considered good? What's considered bad? We help add that to the story." And I was like, "Well, that's perfect." And he was like, "But the ref's like one of the main people." I was like, but a good one can be right there, and everybody's focusing on what shenanigans are going on with the wrestlers, as long as the ref is able to, I say the frack out of the way
That's
in
what's
the
up.
ring. Because I was like, "You guys are a lot bigger than me. I'm gonna get squashed. I don't need to die quite yet." Um, and I, that started what I really thought of as just kind of making sure my friends are okay in the ring. Being kind of that mom. My kids are getting into, getting into things and, messing around, but they're not keeping them from hurting themselves, or if they get hurt, help them right away. Um, and I honestly, it's been such a good fit for me because I don't have to pretend. I don't have to do all my reactions are genuine reactions. Like, that's how I would react in the real world if I saw, something of that caliber.
Right.
And that's pretty much why I'm like, you know what? I don't want to do anything else. I like reffing. This is where I belong.
That's what's up. So at that point, was that the moment where you was like, yeah, this is this that was the moment where you decided that you wanted to be a referee?
Um, it happened kind of in two phases. It was the initial one, when I was like, yes, let's start the training and do all of that. And then one of our really good friends, Damon Knight, passed away a little over a year, almost 2 years ago.
Okay.
And his memorial show, I wasn't initially thinking about returning. I had gotten injured and I was like, you know what? COVID, everything else, I was done. Um, but when Damon passed away, part of me felt like he would be really disappointed in me because he's the reason I had my first match.
Okay.
Um,
Well,
the referee split his pants in the middle and was not wearing underwear, and
oh.
they were like, "Well, you got your gear. Time to you're in. Guess what?
Yeah.
You're up." And he grabbed me by both shoulders and he was like, "You will be fine. I will be out there with you. Don't be a pussy. You're okay." And basically pushed me out the curtain. And as scared as I was, having him in the ring that first time, that's what really cemented it. And then his passing, it was, "Okay, I need to keep this going because he wanted me to do this."
Yeah, that's what's up. So real quick, do like, because I know a lot of wrestlers when they talk about their first match or just even like before they go through the curtain for a match, like they get nervous and stuff. Is that the same thing for referees also?
Running joke every time I'm in front of the curtain, I just look at the wrestlers, go, "I'm gonna puke in the ring." But my nerves are so bad that I've had anxiety attacks right before a show, and Brandon
Mm,
will usually pull me aside and kind of calm me down. But if I can't get to him, the wrestlers usually know me well enough to know, okay, make her laugh, she'll be okay. And that's usually when they try messing with me a little bit more in the ring, like muttering comments to try and make me laugh or do goofy things just because they can. And that's one of my favorite things about the boys I work with, especially because they just they know how to work with me and I know how to work with them. And it's that synergy that you can't really get a whole lot of other places.
that's what's up. That's what's up. So, what are some of the biggest challenges you faced as a female referee in a male-dominated industry?
And I was the only female. There was the ring announcer, but the only worker that was like in the back,
Yeah,
that wasn't family because the ring announcer, the previous one and the current one are both family to Ben McCoy, and um that was it. That those are the only other females that really worked in the company. And I've always been a tomboy and one of the boys just in general. So the treating me with like a level of respect at when I was doing the doing the wife thing, um, that kind of came as a shock to me because I was like, no, 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 I'm one of you guys. I do that. Um, one of those where I'll just go and get changed, like, in a bathroom or something. That's how I am as a person. But
yeah,
I will say, being a female and now more companies are doing the women's locker rooms where they have their own space, that is just it's something so small that you wouldn't think would matter so much, and it's just being in the same space as others like you are is just this kind of solidarity that within the community. And
right.
it's not like the guys that I've worked with have been disrespectful or rude or pervy or anything like that. um but I also I've seen it where it's been a lot of sexism and
Yeah,
where women are treated differently. And while I get why, um, there are some that continuously blur the lines. Like Sierra, the wrestler, she is one of the best wrestlers I know, period. Male, female, hi Noodles. Um, that's Noodles, one of the psycho cats that live here. So if you hear any goofing off, that would be them.
All
Um,
right, cool.
um, she is one of the most driven workers I've ever met. She works so hard to not just be the best women's wrestler she can be. She works hard as to be the best wrestler in the room. And most times she's the best wrestler in the conversation, period. And watching her from her early days to now, just that blossoming in and of itself, not just for me, but for my daughter who's 11, having that strong female coming up in a male dominated industry is hugely important. I mean, yes, Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Io, all strong women representatives, but in the indie industry, it's a lot more close to home. It's a lot more attainable
Yeah,
in some way.
that's what's up. So, do you think like because I know you were saying that you being the only female referee at a promotion at one time, like now, do you think that it's getting better for women in the wrestling industry, or because wrestling is a diverse community, you know what I'm saying? The wrestling community welcomes everybody. um what are your thoughts on it? Do you think that the opportunities for women in the wrestling industry are getting better outside of like WWE and AEW and stuff like that?
Year two promotions. One in Michigan. And then there is the Glow Wrestling that they're continuing in Vegas, and
Okay.
where it's all women through and through, and the executives are women. The opportunities are there, and women are having the brass ovaries to go and grab them. And it's basically, sticking the middle finger up to the air and saying, you know what, I can do this too. And that's very, it warms my heart.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's good because it's like back in the day when women were in wrestling, the only thing they were used for is like bikini matches and gravy bowl matches and stuff like that.
Yep.
And but it's been cool to just see how women have just elevated in wrestling. Like they're main eventing the big shows now, and it's at times outperforming the men. So, I definitely have been enjoying women's wrestling. I would say what the last 10 years it's been evolving.
With when I was in high school was, and one that always stuck out to me even when I wasn't a wrestling fan was Lita, because it
Okay.
was the no fucks given attitude. It was the and it was
Yeah.
someone I wanted. That was what I wanted to emulate, was that kind of strength and confidence of self. And it on the hoe train, and but she grew into such a profound wrestler that she still has an impact to this day. And Trish Stratus is another one. I mean, we've come a long way from the days of the bikini and pillow fight matches and stuff like that. And I honestly think it's because of personalities like those two especially that drove the industry to finally notice that women were more than just arm candy, or the bimbos and the heels that were trying to do wrestling and just making it look kind of sketch. I mean, I saw a few of them when I was younger, and I was just like, this is bad. Like this is bad, bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just seeing the quality of matches that like the men were able to put out even in the Attitude Era, because Brendan will take me on deep dives into past because I didn't even start watching wrestling until we started dating. So the last 8 years.
Oh,
And he would take me on these little journeys. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin's one of his all-time favorites.
yeah,
So
that's
we
one of mine
started
too.
seeing the level and quality that he was given and the all of that, and then seeing what the women were getting, and it was kind of like,
Yeah,
and but I also understood why at the time too, because that was not the mainstream idea.
yeah,
And then you have women like China who defied that and
definitely.
made such an impression. Just, I mean, there he's shown me a couple of matches, and I'm just sitting here like, why was this not recognized as good back then? Why are we just appreciating it now? And
Yeah,
then watching the quality now, I'm like, see, they took it to another level because of the acknowledgement.
yeah, definitely. And the crazy part about it, like there were a lot of good women's wrestlers in the Attitude Era. Like you had China, Lita, Trish Stratus, you had Molly Holly, you had Jazz, you had Ivory. I feel like I'm forgetting somebody. Jacqueline, that was another person. So yeah, you had that roster of good women's wrestlers, but they at that time they just it was just bra and panty matches, and it was just like it just after a while it just got boring and it just got stale. And then when they would give women wrestling matches, it would be like less than 5 minutes. It's like, come on, man.
Or it would be, you know, those big, distractions to go get more to drink.
Yeah, yeah. So real quick, can you share a moment in your career that made you feel especially proud or validated in what you do?
I at least told my kids what you see during the match, it's okay. I didn't tell them what was happening because I didn't know what was happening until about 10 minutes before I went through the curtain, because Ben McCoy told them not to tell me because I would overthink it and I would freak out. He is exactly right. Um, but it was just a splash into the corner, and I lay there and I didn't move. And I scared my kids who knew I was okay. The audio recording I got from my daughter was, "Oh my god, my mom's actually moving. It's okay." Because I didn't move for the rest of the match. Um
Oh,
After that, it wasn't just my kids that were checking to make sure I was okay. It was a couple of the kids in the crowd that actually came up and were, "You're my favorite. I'm so glad you're okay." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay." It never really dawned on me that I was going to be an influence. I figured I would have, my kids, and that would be my scope of influence. But now obviously wrestling gives me a little bit more than that. So the perspective of not being scared of confrontation, that's a big one, especially with some of the wrestlers that like to yell at the referees.
right, right, cool. So, real quick, for anybody that just hopped on this wrestling from the 313 live, we got Ronnie Schumer, who's here on the show, making her first appearance, and just talking about her journey in the wrestling scene. So, if you're watching, just make sure you like this video, leave a comment for me, leave a comment for her. If you got any questions or whatever, or want to give any shout outs, just leave a comment. So real next question, Ronnie. How did you get connected with Frontline Pro Wrestling, and what's your experience been like working for
Into Frontline basically, because of Brennan. A lot of this is going to boil back to him.
them?
Um, he owned part of Frozen Tundra Wrestling, and he hired Ben. Ben in turn brought Brandon in as a manager, and Brandon worked for about a year before I started. Um, when I initially came back after the injury and after Damon passed away, um, we talked to Ben and I said, "Look, I want to come back. Can I come back here?" And he refers to me as his project because all of my training is, with the exception of the little bit I got before, everything has been at Frontline. Um, so basically, I am a culmination of his work of what he wants a referee to look like and behave like. So it's a lot of every single match that I have, either I will ask him right away or I'll ask him at the end of the night and get feedback. Mm, but for the most part, he likes me as I am, which is great because to me, a lot of it, yes, it's the psychology of everything, but to me, it's a lot of common sense, staying out of the way. If I see somebody's back, I'm moving. I'm not staying in the same spot because when they post up for a move, if I see either their opponent's back or their back, one of them is getting moved in that direction, so I need to skedaddle. Another one is I don't ask for the finishes.
Okay.
I don't want to know. I want to know what's coming right before that because that way it's an organic response. I'm afraid I'm going to pull a count if I know it. So I ask to not be told.
Okay.
And I come up and I ask exactly one question. What do I need to know? Do I need to know if there's a ref spot? Do I need to know if there's going to be a distraction, if I have to stay in a certain area? Is there going to be interference coming in that I need to not see come in, but stop them after, or do I need to see them walking out? Those sort of details I have to know because I have to be in the right position. But beyond that, I want to have as much of an organic response as possible because like when the guys slam each other on or do any of the high flying moves that create a big impact, my
Hmm.
feet can actually leave the canvas. And it's not me jumping, it's their mass lifting me into the air.
Oh.
So I there's been a couple where I've actually tripped as I come down because both my feet have left the canvas. Um and that was Onyx Andretti and Tommy Trainwreck. When they both landed, I mean, they're both bigger guys, so yeah, my feet up in the air. And I think having those organic responses and the fact that I'm smaller than them and it's kind of funny watching little me who's 5'5" yelling at an over 6 foot tall guy that he can't do that. I think in Ben's twisted mind, that's funny. But it's also funny to me too, because I'm sitting here like I'm not afraid to yell up at my children. My daughter's almost as tall as me already.
Wow. So so I know you talk about like with refereeing, you got to be in the right spot and stuff like that. And do you like when you watch WWE or AEW or just any wrestling period, do you like study the moves from other referees as well?
Yes. A lot of it I'm watching acting mainly because I'm still learning so much about the wrestling game in and of itself. There are times I have to ask, okay, what actually does this mean? Am I supposed to enforce this during this time? Simple things like um specialty matches and that sort of thing. I still have to ask a lot of questions. But watching on TV, especially when I spent the 3 years laid up, I was still studying. I was still watching to see the reactions of the referees, how they present themselves, even the way that like they hold the belt for the camera and everything. Just kind of watching the body language of them and um the only thing I cannot stand with a passion is when they do the scoop, like when they come down for a 3 count and it all of a sudden scoops. I physically cannot do that because I've tried a couple times and I actually land on my side because of the momentum.
Oh,
And I'm like, if I practiced, it would probably make a little bit more sense. However, I it feels awkward to me, so I don't do it, and that's the only real thing that I've ever picked up that was different, and I've actually asked out their referees, and, quite a few of them are just kinda like, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't."
So the I know the ring, like the surface of the ring is very, very hard. When you hitting your hand and counting the three, how does that feel on your hand? Is that do you get sores at the next day?
No, I have had carpal tunnel since I was 21, so the all the rubber bracelets I have on my left hand, because I'm left-handed, um, I hit with my wrist. So right where my tattoo is, that's kind of where I'm hitting the mat, not with my hand because I've actually made my hand go numb.
Oh,
And we swear I almost broke my hand on account on a cement floor that I did not know was cement because it had vinyl over the top and it looked like wood.
wow, that's crazy. And that was at that, and that was at a was that like a what type of venue was it?
EverCon in where was that? In Wausau, Wisconsin.
Oh,
So it was at a convention center, and this was a frontline show that we did, and it was a false count anywhere match, and that was the first false count anywhere match I really did. Um, and I did a baseball slide, and I didn't even think about it. I hit the ground as hard as I could because I wanted to hear the sound. And there's a clip of me looking at my hand still during the match and just kind of my face falling like I realized I did something bad.
uh-oh.
I didn't break it. I just bruised it all the way through from my palm to the back of my hand.
Oh, oh,
They said I hit the ground like it owed me money.
damn. Ooh. So
And
like,
that's
oh, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
well, that's the only real like if I hit with my bare hand, I can actually make my hand go numb just because of the carpal tunnel. But overall, it's mostly my shoulder from the big windmill motion
Mm-hmm.
that will bother me the next day.
Oh, okay. Man. Yeah, so that's crazy. Just like the type of injuries, and it don't seem like major injuries, but the minor injuries that referees have, and y'all can get injured out there just as much as the wrestlers can. So wait, okay. What makes the indie wrestling scene special to you compared to like bigger promotions?
For the it's a lot more personal, I
Okay.
guess is a good word for it. Um, it's a lot easier to interact with fans and get them involved in matches and do more interaction with them at an indie show, especially like during intermission and afterwards, and just seeing them be able to talk to the wrestlers afterwards and spend that time with them. You don't get that at the bigger venues, even with like ACW's wrestling con that they do. It's a lot harder to even talk to the wrestlers. They have, their people that come in for meet and greets and things,
Yeah.
but it's a lot more structured. Um, AEW, WWE, I'm pretty sure to an extent TNA and stuff like that. They have that structure of it's a lot harder to be able to actually talk and meet with the wrestlers, but you get that with the indie stuff, especially with ones that there are some wrestlers they're gonna go somewhere. And seeing
Yeah.
them start out is just this kind of it's almost like watching a band that you know is going to be great later on and just watching that fan base grow.
Yeah. 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 And I think that's one of the cool things. That's one of the things that I like about independent shows is that even after their matches, before their matches, and just after the shows, they're just interacting with the crowds. Like they letting the fans wear the belts and stuff. And even if you're not a real wrestling fan and you just at an independent show, you'll come out entertained and you know what I'm saying. You showing the wrestlers love, and I think that's the one cool thing about the independence, like you said, is just like you get to interact with the wrestlers and stuff like that, and you don't really get that in WWE. And it's like, when they do meet and greets, they let you, probably shake their hand, take a quick picture, then you got to get on, go on with your business. So yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. Like that interaction that they have with the crowd is real cool. So what's some things fans might not understand about the role of a referee in a wrestling match?
Well, the comment that everything is fake is kind of a played out tripe for our pro wrestling.
Yeah,
I refer to it as extreme community theater because it's all scripted
yeah,
and everybody does their own stunts. Um, so the impacts are real. The risk is the same as a Cirque du Soleil performer. They're
uh,
doing extreme performances and they're putting themselves at risk for entertainment. Um, it's not a glamorous life by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of road time. There's a lot of time working on what any good wrestler or any worker in general will tell you is working and investing on your own brand is it's a full-time job.
yeah,
It's you have to do all the things that you could pay someone else to do. So you're investing in yourself and how much time and energy you invest in yourself is what you're going to get out of it. Um so it's a lot more their love put in on display. It's not just a performance. It's their passion coming out and on display for the world.
definitely. So has there ever been a situation in the ring where you had to take control, where something got too real or went off script?
One of my wrestlers was getting a little punch drunk, but I think he was just under the influence. I'm not quite sure to this day, but I stepped in and I actually had to physically like push him off of another wrestler and like kind of shake him and go, "Dude, you good?" And then after everything was all said and done, I think he just kind of got a little too into it and was just really intense about it. Thankfully, that's the only real concern I've ever had was when, yeah, I had to basically torpedo launch myself across over the top of one wrestler to shove the other one off because he wasn't listening.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. So the so can like the punches and stuff get a little out of hand because like the wrestlers are just the momentum. Okay, so
Accidents happen. You can get stiffed a little bit. Momentum obviously is not their friend. Gravity and physics, they're combating the laws of nature. So, um, accidents can happen. I mean, Brandon was in a crowd spot and got accidentally punched in the face and got a bloody nose. Um, and it was literally just a fall and just the way the guy's hand fell onto his face.
yeah,
Um, it's one of those things where you can tell when it's like an accidental one, but you can also tell when people are getting a little too aggressive. I personally haven't had to deal with that, but I've seen it.
that's what's up. So what advice would you give to other women who want to get into the wrestling business, whether it's referees, wrestlers, or behind the scenes?
With you. Going out and, or valet manager, find a part of it that kind of speaks to you and go for it with everything you've got. But also look at old stuff. Like, get names of people who are great in that area. Excuse me. The big one I can definitely say is watch others, and always keep both eyes open and both ears open, because you never know what you might pick up. Not just, could be as simple as, hey, for when you're doing this kind of a move, make sure you do this, that way you can land a little bit better, that way, and kind of catalog it, because if it ever comes up and you notice it, you can pass that along. So I love asking for feedback if there's anything I need to do to get better, and that's one thing too, is accepting criticism. Um don't accept criticism that's completely coming off as a jackass. That's counterproductive. you, you but anybody that wants you to get better is going to be like, "Hey, this looked good, but this is how it can be better." And instead of ripping the whole thing apart and basically saying, "No, it was a steaming pile." Um and keep your circle of wrestling family, that your core wrestling family, keep that small.
Cool, cool. Is there any reason why to keep it small?
The ones that are gonna 100% stick with you are gonna be the ones that you'll just know are there.
Right,
As weird as
right.
that makes sense. Because life happens, and there are times where we won't hear from some of our friends for a while, but we know that they're going through stuff. Um, but we still are like, anytime they're out and we see them, we make it a point to talk to them and hang out with them for a little bit. Um, because we want them to know we still see them as that. The other part of that too is, if you have a good idea and you share it with everybody, it's gonna get everywhere.
That's true. That's true. Yeah. That is true. You definitely got to keep your circle small, because it's you can't be friends with everybody. That's something that I've learned.
Happy and
Definitely, definitely.
share happiness with you the most of the ones that are in your corner.
Right. So, what are your goals for the future? Any dream promotions or matches you'd like to work?
One major goal, and I will never complain ever again if I get to work for JCW one time. I really want to work for the Clowns, because I have loved them since I was like 10, and um I love how random it is, and I know I have a lot of friends that have worked for them in the past, and I'm just like, "You know what? That is a bucket list for me," because it it's it's such a cultural phenomenon, not just the wrestling part of it, but the juggalo part of it, and that's a huge part of me growing up, and still as an adult, I still listen to Insane Clown Posse, no shame. I didn't get to go to any of the gatherings or anything like that, so this would be the closest I would get to that, and that would be the experience of a lifetime for myself. Um, I'm a very realist about things. I'm 36. I'll be 37 this fall, and I know that the odds are they're not impossible, but they are slim, and I'm okay with that, because my whole thought is, if I can help get talent who is going to make it, if given the opportunity, and help them get better, I'm okay with being that step ladder to get them to that point, because rising tide raises all ships.
Definitely, definitely agree with you on that. So, when you're not in the independents, when you're not working matches, and you sitting at home and you watching wrestling, what are you watching? Is it WWE, AEW? Watching a little bit of both.
He's been a fan of me a lot. Um, Mostly Tony Storm because she's freaking hilarious.
Yeah,
Every time it cracks me up, and it's just the timeless thing. If they would have done that at the E, I think it would have turned out totally different. But where
yeah,
she's at now, I just mwah, perfect. And sometimes it's like that where one promotion isn't quite getting a character or a worker, and they have to go outside of that box. We've seen that before with, Sting and Stone Cold and
yeah.
Cody Rhodes.
That,
And it's the getting that experience outside of the one promotion. I mean, Randy Orton's great, and he will probably be in the E until he passes away.
oh yeah,
But getting that experience elsewhere and bringing that in, I think is something that is the E is definitely capitalizing on now and realizing that that's what they should have been doing for a minute. Especially with just acquiring the Lucha Company and all their promotions with New Japan.
yeah.
I like just seeing that collaboration in and of itself outside of the indies is amazing.
So what do you think of WWE now that they got the WWE program for the independent wrestlers? Do you think that's a good opportunity for them to get into WWE?
I for sure.
Can you hear
But
me? Oh,
yeah,
okay. Go ahead. Sorry.
yeah, no. I think it's a very, very unique and clever idea for not having to send out talent scouts, not having to have somebody scouring YouTube for look videos, that sort of thing. Um, I think it's going to give a lot of wrestlers opportunities that they might not have been able to capitalize on. I'm waiting kind of to see what the program produces first before I completely judge it. But so far, what I've seen is it's got potential to do some really great things.
That's good. That's good. So have anybody from WWEID, have they been at any of the shows you refereed at?
The only um, Rob Van
Okay.
he worked our show. Like he went to the Hall of Fame taping. He got on a flight. He got to our show and he worked the show. And he was doing his WWE icon taping as well. So there's actually frontline footage on his WWE icon documentary,
Oh, sweet.
which which is really cool. So we had WWE camera crew there, but I haven't seen anybody from Icon yet.
Okay. And what do you think about that other show? The show that comes on A and E, LFG. Uh, did you get a chance to watch that?
I've watched a little bit of it and I like the idea. I'm not a huge fan of reality shows to begin with. Um not my jam. Um I do like that it's not like a diva search or something like that where it's very superficial. I like that they're actually going through not just the move list or anything like that, but the psychology, how to conduct a promo properly.
Yeah,
Um, all of these things are vital and honestly what you would get going to a wrestling school.
definitely, definitely. So, what's like your favorite storyline in wrestling right now? That when you at home watching wrestling, what's that storyline that you got to watch this show because this storyline is like your favorite right now?
So much a storyline yet, but it's got the potential for it, and I'm really excited. The Karrion Cross, just he's such a wackadoodle, and I love it.
Yeah.
His he seems like almost Mad Hatter-esque, and I love that combination. I really liked Bray Wyatt and everything he did, but I like this with Karrion Kross and just him trying to manipulate people, and whether or not it works, you can't really tell if that's what he wanted or not,
Right.
and I love that. Um, so that one definitely, I've always been an Io Sky fan, so,
Yeah. Yeah.
her first time with the garbage can is what cemented my daughter's love for her. I have been a huge fan of hers for a few years, but last year when she did the dive with the garbage can, I actually pulled my daughter in, I rewound it, and I was like, "You need to watch this."
Because I think she did that once. I think she did it in NXT when she was in NXT and they did War Games. That's where it started off at first. So just like just overall, just like in WWE and just AEW, you seeing more women's championships. Like WWE got the women's mid card title. AEW got the TBS, yeah, the TBS title. What do you think now? What do you think about, they're making more opportunities to have to more champions for women in wrestling?
Men's titles as there are women's, I think it should be equal too, because that fits a slot that, like, you have for a showcase. Um, I do think that they add too many more, it's gonna be oversaturating, but I do like the addition of that. I also love that some of them can move across from, like, Raw to SmackDown and NXT. I like that they're doing that because that adds an extra element of who could go after it next.
Yeah, yeah. And it's just crazy because it's like a lot of like because WWE are always doing releases and stuff, and like the last couple releases they just recently did, some of those women would have been like good contenders for the mid card titles, like Shayna Baszler. And it's just crazy to me that they didn't give her the push that she deserved because it was like she should have been a women's champion. Like she killed it in NXT. She was like she was a dog. And then it's like they bring her to the main roster. I mean, she showed a glimpse of possibly being like one of the top women in the division, but it kind of seemed like they weren't really high on her. And then they tried to do something with her and Ronda. They won the tag titles, which was cool. Then after that, and actually I like when they put her with a Pure Fusion Collection. They just for some reason just didn't give them that push. But she was definitely somebody that definitely should have been. If they weren't gonna give her a shot at the women's title or nothing like that, she definitely could have been like a good intercontinental title champion or U.S. champion.
Best pieces of her when she was going after Ronda. Like, that was her moments. It was like, "Oh, she broke some rules here. She used some terms we don't normally use." And I loved it because it was more than just a glimpse behind the curtain. It was a glimpse into the octagon as well, because you
Yeah,
got to see probably how their friendship actually is.
yeah, yeah,
And I loved it. I was very upset that they ended it as soon as they did. I felt they could have done more with it, but like you said, they didn't really do a whole lot with Shayna.
yeah. Honestly, they should have did something with the whole four horsewomen, the MMA version of the four horsewomen. Like they dropped the ball on that. Like it should have been a Survivor Series match with the four horsewomen and the four horsewomen of NXT, and that probably would have been one of the best Survivor Series matches of all time because all eight women are talented. You know what I'm saying? Marina Shafir is over there in AEW killing it. With the Death Riders. What was the other girl name? I forgot her name. It's all. It was Marina Shafir and I forgot her name, but I know she was in AEW and she, you know, she had her.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and I can't remember her name either.
Yeah,
Just bad.
yeah. But I definitely think that they dropped the ball on them, and like that was like the perfect storyline. Like they should have did something with them, and but that just, you know, Vince was running the company at the time, and you know, if it wasn't Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, or whatever, he wasn't trying to hear.
All the women stuff too. Like he wanted it a certain way, and it wasn't until he had to let go a little bit that things started moving forward. And I think that had a lot to do with that because you can't make the audience care if you don't give them something.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Definitely true. Sorry. So what do you think about the just like the involvement of the bloodline story? Like it seemed like it's over, but technically it's not over because it's like you still got little stories inside of the story that's going on. You know, you got the Jacob Fatu story, you got the Roman story, you got the Jay Uso story. So just what are your overall thoughts on just like how this bloodline story just evolved and it just got twists and turns?
Debating if it's gonna be one of those things where the bloodline story is just gonna be like Days of Our Lives with Stefano never really dying or going away. I really think that's gonna be what it's gonna turn into. And in some ways, yes, that is because they have such a huge family and there is so many different people they can make come in and be new twists and new turns. I like I am very liking the change for Jacob Fatu. I
Yeah,
didn't think I'd see that where he was being cheered and chanted for, but you know what? I love it because it honestly looks like one, it looked like he was stunned when
yeah,
it happened. Like I literally leaned over and went, you know, he's shocked that they're cheering for him, right?
yeah,
And then they're like, I kind of want to see where they take that. Like you Solo, I don't know. It seems like they don't really know what to do with him yet. And I think that's because they have Jay doing his thing. Jimmy's kind of faded off to the background. Roman shows up whenever he feels like it.
yeah,
And then you have Solo who's kind of there and but I'm hoping they bring some of it back. They probably had them off as like a cooling off period
yeah,
to try and see if they could drum up the interest again. Obviously, Jacob being one of those that got the interest, I'm hoping that they're able to do more with the Tongas and give Solo a little bit more of a chance to be something other than the enforcer or the new tribal chief.
yeah. And I like Solo's character, like his character is being evolving. Because like when he was first with the bloodline, he was just really wasn't saying nothing. Just like you said, he was the enforcer. But then it's like he after Roman had lost the title and he became the leader of the bloodline, you saw him kind of take that leader role. And now that, you know, the battle between him and Roman for for tribal chief is over, you starting to see little things with him and Jacob Fatu. Like I'm predicting that I see a match between them in SummerSlam. But I'm gonna even go further with Jacob Fatu, and I'm gonna say he's my early favorite for the Royal Rumble. Like I think that he should be a favorite to win the Royal Rumble, and I would even go as far as to say maybe a title match at WrestleMania. You know what I'm saying? Because I think that he's gonna have a good year this year. And you already saw it when he won you saw it when he debuted in WWE. And they actually like pushed back his debut because they knew that he was gonna become a bigger star than Solo, and it's pretty much true. So So do you think that any women will get involved in the bloodline story, or do you see that anytime?
Rock's daughter over at NXT. I was waiting for her to kind of be like an unofficial member. Um, I'm hoping so because that would be a whole nother level, especially getting the daughters involved. Um, just because if they wanted to, they could turn it into this whole NWO thing where they're running the table.
Yeah. So do you think like the bloodline, like they always talk about like the best faction? Do you where would you put them as like one of the like best all time factions?
Up there, I don't know the older ones. I know the ones that I've seen that are my favorite. The other one would be Judgment Day now, especially with Dom. That just it. I hated him so much at first, and now he's grown on me, and I'm like, you know what? The chicken tendies every time cracks me up, and
Yeah,
it's always something little and stupid like that that seems to have the most impact.
yeah, definitely, most definitely. So Ronnie, I thank you for coming on the show. This is your first time on. I enjoyed the conversation. Before we get out of here, did you want to make any announcements? Anything you got going on? Did you want to plug your social media pages or any shout outs?
To thank all my boys and my ladies at Frontline for putting up with me. Um, no, in all honesty, working with them, the locker room itself is totally different than anything I've ever encountered before, and that's kind of the song and dance. The locker room at Frontline is special, and it's because we really do work hard to raise everybody up together. Um, with that is Honor Bound is this weekend at the Bakerville Bar, which is our home, on the 24th. And then August 8th, the Liberty Bells show, which is the Frontline all women's show. So that is one where I'm going to be head referee. Um, we're going to be having the Liberty Division Championship be defended at that one. I do believe we're going to be having some tag stuff going on. Um, but for all of those goodies, you're going to follow Frontline Pro on Facebook for sure. I am on Facebook as Ronnie Schumer, and you can find me on TikTok as well.
Sweet, sweet. Once again, thank you, Ronnie. Before I get out of here, um, follow Wrestling from the 313 on YouTube. We're still growing. We're getting close to 5,500 subscribers. We're getting close to 2.4 million views. So, everybody that's been subscribing and liking and following, just thank you. Thank you. I never thought that my YouTube channel would get that big. So it's definitely been a grind. So I'm thankful for that. Also follow on Facebook, Instagram, um, TikTok. Check me out on the Wrestling Society Network. I'm on their website, on their app. Check out the podcast room where you see my podcast and all other wrestling podcasts. And yeah, just tune in every Tuesday or Wednesday for episode of Wrestling from the 313. We got another one coming next Tuesday. So I'm looking forward to that. And once again, this is like my third thank you, Ronnie. Thank you. Um, Definitely good luck with everything you got going on with Frontline Pro Wrestling. Good luck on your upcoming show. And Mike D, this is Wrestling from the 313. Make sure you support independent wrestling and support your wrestling podcasters. Once again, Ronnie Schumer, I am Mike D, and I'm out. Peace.